Some delicious Soylent Blue, not to be confused with Soylent Green. This one's actually not made out of people. Speaking of eating people, the Hansel and Gretel reboot, reimagining, re everything has been released. And if I'm going to score it right away, it's a weak 6. It could have been a strong 8. I think to some people, though, this film would go as far as a 2. So if you are unable to discern camera angles, if you don't notice sound, don't watch the movie because you will get nothing out of it. There is nothing. There is nothing in this film for somebody who can't tell the difference between like different kind of camera angles and things like that. Or and when I say angle, I don't mean the perspective that it's shooting, like, looking up at something or looking down at something. What I mean is, like with the fisheye lens kind of thingy, where part of the image is like blown out and really huge, and the rest of the periphery, is like super tiny. And as things pass over the lens, they seem like they get distorted like a funhouse mirror. That's essentially what I'm talking about. The film uses that a lot. I don't really know why. It's it has an effect, but I don't really know what it has as far as an effect on the story. I guess I'll get into that. My own kind of interpretation of why these certain things were used in the film. But just going over the broad strokes of the film, it's a weak 6. The story, after all said and told, is actually kind of shit. The plot could have been good. Could have been good. The sound design was okay, but there's like a lot of weird 80s synth beat boop noises, and they don't feel out of place. But there are parts in the film where the structures of the buildings seem to be modern, and there seem to be like modern things or something. So I kind of thought that the film was going to have some kind of like, if you remember that M. Night Shyamalan Village movie where there's like people in the woods and then they find there's like regular society out there. I thought it was going to be something like that, but I guess not. That was a little bit of a letdown. I thought the acting was really good, except for the narration. The narration part, it felt like there was a lot of holding back on that, and in some aspects, But despite that, I thought the acting was actually pretty good. The characters were all like performing seemingly the role that they were, told to perform in. It just didn't really work that well. But I think the acting was good. I think it's really easy to mix up in this film and to say the acting was bad because the characters were acting weird. But I don't think that was the issue. I think they performed their lines all really well, and all that was pretty convincing. It's just that it felt like it felt like a lot of the cast was being held back, and the cast isn't very big. So it's very strange. So it's kind of ironic that like the two leads in the film are held back so much in terms of evoking or having anything actually come out from inside of them. They just seem like they're stunted children, and their parents are fighting and they don't know how to like approach the subject or conversation. That's kind of how they came off in the film. So, yeah, it's kind of weak, but let me try to go over the plot as much as I can recall, because I feel like this is where you're going to have some interesting commentary. So the film starts off, and we get this narrated nursery rhyme fairy tale about a young girl who was born with a sickness, and she's taken to a mountain triangle enchanter person who sucks the sickness out, and then gets put in place some kind of witch power. Now, this could have all been told visually, but the main character narrates it, which is fine because then it's like, oh, that's my favorite story or whatever. Which spoilers, the story doesn't make any fucking sense. Presumably from what's available in the film, the fairy tale story, but we'll get into that. So little baby's cured, and then she's growing up, and she's so beautiful, even though she's like pretty ugly. I mean, I gotta be honest, she's pretty ugly for like how much they're talking about. Oh, she's so beautiful. It's like, no, she just kind of looks like a young asshole girl. Like, she doesn't look beautiful, but whatever. She like just starts, killing horses and killing her dad, and then she gets sent away in like a weird box car that has like hexagonal shapes or some shit. It looks fucking weird. And then that's the fairy tale. And then we start with our characters, kind of in media res. They're in the woods. We see, I think the actress's name is Sophia, the one who plays the girl Gretel. I think she's like putting on like some kind of fungus lipstick and like eyeliner stuff to make herself look a little bit more attractive. And then the brother's like, "Oi, why are you putting that stuff on? Why is your lips so red? Here." And this is a warning. This is a warning. The boy character never becomes better. Like he starts off stupid and annoying. God, I wish he died stupid and annoying. But no, he's just stupid and annoying pretty much throughout the whole movie. Like, nothing he does is endearing. And it's hard to understand him. So the characters are walking, and they're not homeless, but they need food, and their mom is like a fucking lunatic. So the main girl, Gretel, goes to some weird old man's house, and he looks like a caricature of a human as like a pimp pedophile. He looks fucking weird. And he's having this interview with her, and then he's like, "Oh, well, could you do an old man a favor and call me my lord? I think I'd like to hear that." And he basically tells her, in couch terms that, the only space I really have here is for prostitutes. And he's like, have you kept your maidenhood? And then she's like, "Oh, what are you asking?" or something. And then they leave in a huffle. And then the brother's like, "Oh, why couldn't you just?" The brother says something stupid, and then she's like, "You don't understand the world." And then they go back home, and the mom's like, "Couldn't you just smile at him?" And she's like, "You didn't need a caretaker or whatever." And then the mom, this is a part of the film where I knew it was going to be bad. This is when I knew it was going to be bad. It wasn't bad. It could have been good. It was okay. But this is a really, really bad editing scene. So it starts off good, too. The two characters are perpendicular at the table. Mom's here, Gretel's here, and they're talking. And you think they're really far apart. And then the camera pulls out, because it's really suffocating. It's really claustrophobic. And then, they're like right next to each other. And that's kind of crazy. And then the mom walks off because the mom is like, you kind of get the sense that like she's just has some kind of like problem getting over the death of her husband. I don't even know if they have a dad. Like, I don't really remember what was going on with that. But she comes back and she slams an axe on the table. And it's fucking shocking. And then Gretel like backs up to the wall. And then this part took me out of the scene. When Greta backs up to the wall, like, imagine I'm Gretel. My mom just hit the axe on the table. She's right over here. The way it's filmed, they mirrored the shot. So instead of looking this way, she's like, Gretel's looking this way. Gretel is looking the wrong fucking direction for where the action just happened. And I was in the film, I'm like, why is Gretel looking at the other end of the table when the mom with the axe is right fucking there? What the fuck? So that was very concerning that they didn't even need to reshoot the scene. All they had to do was flip it in editing so that she was looking the right direction. Like, they just fucked up. Somebody just fucked up. So that was sad. So they leave their moms because mom's fucking crazy. And the brother is like delusional and thinks their mom isn't crazy or something. And this is part of the film where it does these like a lot of really close, like really high, like intensity close up that's not like really close to the character. But what I mean is that the character is so in focus and like high definition, and then all the background, everything around them is all blurred, and it really makes them like pop out of the scenery, and it makes them, I guess, feel kind of like isolated or alone from the world, maybe. Like they like the world around them is like this, kind of almost unknowable because you can't see what anything is around them, and they do that intermittently in the film. The problem is that would be a good idea to apply to the two characters as they're traveling out in the world and they're trying to find food and shelter and things like that. That would be a cool stylistic choice to convey that idea. The problem is that they use that all the time in the film haphazardly. So it doesn't really carry the consistent weight of having a certain type of effect when it's just used whenever the fuck, they wanted to throw it in. It's used with the witch lady. Is she a witch? I mean, she's a witch in this movie, but I don't really know the story of Gretel and Hansel, so I don't really know how much of this story was lifted. So it's really hard to assess. But there is one really good part in the movie that follows a really bad part. And that's what the film seems to have, that like it has a good part and then a bad part in the same scene. So in this part, they find like a church, and they're like, oh, we'll like go sleep here. And I thought they like knew somebody was in there. Like I thought somebody was in there, right? Like their fucking lights on. They're kids, but they're not stupid. And then they're sleeping, and then like in Jurassic Park, they're facing each other, and then the boy, I think, sees like a fucking zombie wake up behind them, and I'm like, oh, that must be like some old man. No, this film legitimately has a screaming zombie that chases them out of the church. That the black guy shows up. He's like the huntsman or something. He like headshots it with a bow and arrow, and I was just like, I don't know where this film was taking place. I don't know when this film was taking place. I imagine it was taking place in England, which I'm pretty sure black people were there. I like would this be like the 1600s or some shit? I don't know. It seems to be, it's definitely pre-industrial, but it seems like in another 100 years they're going to be industrialized or something. But yeah, I have no fucking idea what the fuck was up with that. So like, and there's another part of the film later on. There's like other different ethnicities of children too, and it just seemed kind of strange because like if you're in the countrysides are generally usually more or less diverse. But whatever. I mean, that's the whole just like a demographics question. I didn't really get it. I don't really care. The black character is actually the coolest guy in the movie. He has some banger fucking lines, and this is where the movie really pulled me back in. So they're talking to the huntsman guy, and he has this dialogue. I don't even remember what he said, but I was blown away. It was so fucking cool. So like at times, I don't know, once again, I don't know if like Hansel and Gretel, if there's like some adaptation somewhere else where the script is lifted from. I have no fucking idea. All I can tell you is the huntsman's lines in this movie I thought were fucking great, which is only more tragic by the fact that he's only in one scene and he's never in the movie again. And I didn't want him to come back and save the day or nothing, but I wanted to at least have his character like have some kind of significance other than just headshotting a zombie, which is pretty cool. This is pretty cool. So basically what I'm saying is that the coolest character in the movie is a black guy who shows up for one scene. Once again, they should have just had more. That would have been cool. That would be a cool adaptation if they had like black children and they were like trying to like, it's kind of like a metaphor for like growing up black in America, and they're like trying to like, their house life sucks, so they go out and then they get like with some like white lady, but she's like only like taking advantage of them to like eat them or something. I don't know. You could work some kind of modern day metaphor in there. I think that would be pretty cool. But they didn't do that. Instead, they just had like some random Hawkeye guy show up. So he has some cool lines. Then they get some directions to go to the foresters, and then they're traveling, and then they end up at the people eating lady's house. And now, mind you, what I've said probably took 10 minutes to describe, but it was probably like 30 fucking minutes of film, because like a lot of the shots are just them like in the woods doing other stuff. So like the film felt like it was bordering on slow at times in the beginning, and then it felt like it kind of dragged when they were actually with the witch lady, which I was really concerned with. And then when I knew like the like, oh, this has got to be it, this has got to be the fucking climax, and I was like, oh, this is ugh. And then it has like a twist, and the twist is also not good. I don't get it, but we can talk about it. So they eat some magic mushrooms on the way to the witch's house. So once again, maybe they just died when they were eating magic mushrooms and they imagined everything. I don't know. I mean, obviously that's not the case, but you can pretend that. And then they go to the witch's house and they see a bunch of food, and the witch is like fucking crazy and weird. And initially, I'm just going to paint over this part with broad strokes because it is so like nothing happens for like 45 fucking minutes. Basically, they get to the witch's house. There's a bunch of food. The little bro is like, I love food. And then Gretel's like, we should be cautious about this. Nothing in life is a gift without something in return. And then, like, seemingly for no reason, because the brother's eating a bunch of food and he's like, I can't eat anymore. And then the witch is like, oh no, you should keep eating. Make sure you eat. And then the next morning he's like, I don't think we should be here anymore, Gretel. Oh, and it's like, really? That is what made you want to leave? And I didn't buy that for a fucking second, because if you saw how crazy their mom was, there's no fucking way that this little kid will be scared out by the witch who has weird black fingers and looks like a monster. If her appearance didn't scare him, how in the fuck was her just being like, oh, just eat a little bit more food? How was that scaring him, Unless he read the script. So either way, the little boy's like, oh, I'm scared now. And then Gretel, something happens where the little boy, like, he, like, yells, or, like, she, like, yells at him to leave or something, or, like, pushes him away, or there's, like, a bunch of, like, dream sequences. I don't fucking know. But anyway, basically, you have Gretel and you have the witch, and the witch is basically, like, what's that thing that pedophiles do with young children? There's, like, a term for it. Not coaching, it's, like, I don't know. But anyway, the witch is basically teaching Gretel, like, the ways of being a witch, because she senses in her the same kind of power. And then it's revealed that in order to survive, she has to imbibe poison, because poison is sweet to her or something. That's part of the process or whatever. And we find out later that she eated her family. And there's like a big... When does the reveal happen? Oh, I don't remember. But basically, Gretel's got to eat her brother so that she can become a witch. That's basically the plot. And we find this out because Gretel tried to poison the witch lady. But the witch lady, during this conversation, is basically revealing that, hey, I know you're trying to poison me, but let me tell you why I'm immune to poison and why you will be too. Because you have to consume poison to become this being of magical power or whatever. So that was like cool. And I thought it was so weird that in the film, there are moments where it treats the audience like it's retarded, and it has like a very overt narration. Like, the ending narration was way too much. Like, it was like basically telling you, and this is everyone lived happily ever after. I mean, not really, but it just tells you what... Like, they could have just shown it. They didn't have to tell us what happened. Like, they were showing us. I understood what was happening. You didn't have to tell it to me, too. Like, it just felt like you were insulting my intelligence. And there were some dumb people in the audience. So maybe they were talking to them. But it was so weird is that in some parts of the film, it treats the audience like it's really, really stupid. And then in other parts of the film, like in this scene, it treats the audience like you're a fucking ace detective. Because, like, you're supposed to understand that she folded the page over so she knew where the poison recipe was so that she could poison the lady. And, like, the film gives you enough hints, but it, like, never really outright tells you. And now the reason it's hard to detect what's going on in the scene is I could not understand half the fucking dialogue in this movie because the accents are really good, but I couldn't fucking understand them. And then also the characters talk. Well, I don't know. I think the actors did a really good job. I thought it was that the sound mixing was fucking garbage. I couldn't, like, they just put the voices like in the fucking background or something. I don't know, maybe it was the theater I was in, but I would have cranked the fucking volume up 10 notches because I could not fucking hear them. Like, I'm like, what do you say, huh? And they're talking with these, like, you know, rural British hackneyed cockeye, oi, gabba, go, gabagool fucking accents. I couldn't understand what the fuck was happening. So, moving along, the Gretel has a dream where she goes into the basement. This happened earlier, but I'm just going to tell the two sequences in a row. So earlier she had a dream where she went into a weird futuristic basement where basically blood is pouring down to the ground, and then a young witch with, like, hilariously bad tattoos starts walking around, and then she's, like, preparing a meal, and then her brother's in the corner and Gretel's standing right there. And the witch had to have seen her before, but the witch is preparing a feast on this table, and the feast, obviously, here's one of the twists, is that the food they've been eating was made out of the carcasses of rotting guts and like a human, like, body part, like some kind of hand or something or whatever she had available. So they've basically been eating the most gross food that has been conjured to look really good, which I guessed instantly. As soon as they got there, I'm like, oh, all that food's going to be revealed to be like garbage or trash or something. That's going to be one of the twists. And yep, that's one of the twists. Now, mind you, I don't know shit about Gretel and Hansel, so that might be in the base story. I got no fucking idea. And then the witch lady sees Gretel in her dream. And then, even though she, like, was standing right there, she could have seen her at any point, but whatever. And then Gretel wakes up. And now Gretel goes into the basement for real in the real life. And I don't really remember what happens. I think she goes down there, sees some shit, and wakes up. But this is the part of the movie that doesn't make any sense because, like, the basement was behind a midget, like a tiny door for, like, children behind a fake wall that you had to tear apart. And Gretel tears the wall apart at the beginning of the movie so the witch lady would know that Gretel found the door. So it seems like the witch lady should have been, like, 10 steps ahead of Gretel, but instead she was, like, 3 steps to the side. Like, I don't understand. And so a bunch of stupid shit happens that really is just inconsequential. Gretel and the witch lady have a conversation about, like, becoming a witch, and then the final sequence happens, which is they're in that spooky basement room where there's, like, a gutter vein that isn't there later on in the movie. That was bizarre. And the big twist, this is the big twist, the witch reveals that, because you think the witch is that little girl grown up, right? No, the witch is actually that little girl's mom, and the little girl gave her mom some power. I don't know. And also, like, mind you, the little girl killed her husband, and, like, it's just stupid because, like, it's a twist that's like, who cares? Like, and why did she have all those stupid tattoos? Like, did the actress have all those stupid tattoos? And then they were like, well, we'll just have you have the dumb tattoo. Because, like, they're not good tattoos. They're not good. Yeah, like, they're really dumb. And the character just has a bunch of them. And it's like, does this film take place in modern day? Like, did people do tattooing in, like, you know, fantasy era medieval lands? Like, what the fuck was going on? I don't understand. Or, I mean, I guess by the characters' names, they should be German, right? But they all had British accents. I don't fucking know. But yeah, big twist is the witch is actually the mom and not the little girl. What does that matter? Sequel bait, I guess. Really, that's it. I didn't get it. There, I guess. But this raises a question though. Is that so? Gretel tells Hansel the story, and it's her favorite fairy tale. So Gretel's kind of fucked up. But if the witch is the mom and she's like only 30 years older, like how has this story become a fairy tale to these own kids in 30 years? Like, it just seems implausible. Like, my conception is that, oh, there was this little girl, she became a horrible she became a horrible witch, and that she's long dead, and or she's not long dead or whatever, but she's been alive for a long time to develop this story surrounding her origin, you know? But in the movie, it's just the mom. So like the mom, like that just makes the time span from like this real life event inspiring the origin mythos to create a fairy tale for their culture. The time span is like 50 fucking years. Like, have you ever seen anything in reality turn into like a myth in 50 years? Like a fairy tale? Like, this isn't fucking Star Wars with the Jedi where like they act like the Jedi never existed in the original series, and then you find out there was like hundreds and thousands of Jedi. Like, that's fucking doofy. But yeah, um, how does Gretel defeat the witch? You're probably wondering. Well, if you're like me, you kind of wish that the witch won, but that's not the case. So Hansel is climbing a ladder to a burning cage where he'll be roasted alive for Gretel to eat, and Gretel is uh, tied to a table, and then the witch is like, yeah, she slathered him in lather. So early on in the film, we'll find that the witches can manipulate things that are covered in Vaseline. I'm not making this up. That's actually how their powers work. So the brother comes over to Gretel and they share one last pig snort. Yeah, in the film, characters pig snort. That's supposed to mean something. I don't get it. I guess it's a community thing because the witch even knew about the pig snorting and she did it too. So whatever. Anyway, they put their foreheads together, and then Gretel takes the Vaseline from her brother and puts it on her hand, and she knows that the broom, the weird broom staff thing, has some Vaseline in it. I thought there was going to be some kind of masturbation allegory in the film because the film does deal with her being a woman and her having a purpose in life that's basically just to for sex and prostitution. That's kind of what the huntsman says, but he says it in better terms than I just did. But Gretel basically uses the Vaseline from her brother that she got when they pressed foreheads together to like manipulate the wand broom thing, and she like pierces the witch on the wall and like burns her in the flames. And so she's like basically the strongest Jedi ever. And then her brother, like, she sends away on a horse, but she sends away her brother to her home to go get his axe back. But then, like, the mom's not there. And then basically Gretel spends like 10 minutes monologuing about, like, oh, and I'm in the woods, and now that there's no jailer here, the children, the souls of the dead children that were eaten are free to go. And there's like a bunch of like Asian kids and stuff. And it's just like, this is a very diverse fantasy land. I mean, it could be a fantasy land. It could just be, I mean, the thing I don't like about uh, fantasy stories that borrow heavily from real world places is that you need to at least like make a justification for why they don't match, like a little bit, like, oh, there's like a witch, oh well, and then they tell you why, but like, why are all these other characters there? Like, I don't care that they're there, but when you're using the rural folklore area of fucking rural England, because they had like British accents or whatever, really weird British accents. Like, if you're using that area, then I'm going to fill in the gaps about what I think or know about that area. And like, as far as I could tell, I don't think there were too many Asian immigrants in rural England. No, I mean, I don't really care that they're there, But I just think it's weird that they just, or maybe it was to show that she was like traveling around the world and meeting people. I don't know. I just don't know. It's just kind of weird. Like I expected to be a bunch of rural, British children that are missing. They talk about how like the forest isn't growing and everything like that. Like it just seems kind of weird. I don't know. Like I'm pretty sure that there were black people in England, like demographically wise, there were, to justify having the one character, which is fine. I don't really care. It's a fantasy movie. But when you're using real world areas to like fill in the gaps of your bad world building, but then you like just like undercut it, it's just kind of weird to me. I don't really. Basically, I'm arguing for Zardoz because Zardoz is just completely insane. Now, Zardoz is a movie that should have had more multicultural characters in it. There's no reason every character had to be white in that movie. That was just lazy. Every character in that film should have been a different race. But every character in this film, I thought, other than the huntsman, didn't really make any sense. I don't know. It was kind of bizarre. But yeah, I just have a really big gripe with movies that use lazily real world places, but then don't like use them responsibly. Like I wanted to see maybe a story about like, oh, there was like this. Maybe that's how they could have started the movie. That would have been way better. Like there's like some Asian, like some, I don't know, young girl. She's like brought back to England as some kind of like racist exotic trophy, and then somehow she's able to escape. And her and her brother, they escape and they find this old witch's house, and then we kind of know the fate that lies them. And so like it started off terrible, then it got worse. Like seeing a thing like that would be cool. I mean, it's not cool if people are dying, but like when you present something unconventional, you have to kind of try to explain it. And when you explain it, you can create a cool story, like I don't know, like China, like people were not, Christian missionaries weren't allowed in China for a very long time, and so if there was one, that's a story to tell. That's something that's unique, and that's something that's interesting to tell because it's something that's not the normal. But when you put abnormal things in an environment and then you don't explain them, then it's just like, well, why'd you put them there? Like I'm really getting hung up on this, but like I don't know. I hate lazy storytelling. That's just what it comes off to me as. It's just like bizarre. Like, how did she eat those Asian kids? When did she go to China? Like, how did they get there? I don't know. I don't know. It's just so weird. Oh man. And there weren't even that many kids too. Like, I kind of expected her to have eaten a lot more children. I guess we don't really know how long she's been alive though either. So I don't know. Either way, the film ends with the most boring fucking monologue about her going on. Basically, she's gonna become a witch, but she's gonna be like not a bad witch, and she's gonna live in the fucking murder house and practice to become a witch to fight other witches. I don't know. Maybe she's gonna team up with the ghost of those children, and they're gonna like go and like avenge their families. I don't fucking know. That's just so weird. I just don't understand. Like, I don't know, because like if like that would be a thing if they had the film be about, or like had other like Chinese characters there or something. Like, but everyone is just like English except for two characters, so it kind of comes off as like this weird tokenism. Like it's really bizarre to me. I just can't get over it. I just really like the huntsman is fine. He was the best character in the movie, but I just don't get how did she eat those Asian kids? Like, I really warps my brain. I just can't get it. I don't know. But this review's been over for like 20 minutes now. I'm just ranting on about how she fucking found and ate those two Asian kids. I don't get it. It's really bizarre. How did they get there? All the way to fantasy England. What were they doing there? That's the more interesting story. That's it. They should have told that story. Fuck it.